All right, so I just want to run through an example of close reading for the beginning of a piece, and this is a piece that we're looking at in class. The idea here is not something you would do through an entire article or story, but rather by starting slowly at the beginning or during a difficult passage and forcing yourself to go sentence by sentence, you're going to get a lot more out of it. And it's going to do a lot, it's going to take you beyond just getting the gist of it and actually think about what you're looking at is the idea. So we're going to be doing this with a lot of pieces this year. And what it looks like is this. So you're just going to go sentence by sentence. So if we look at the first sentence of this piece, move this up, there we go. Okay. Robert C.W. Ettinger, who thinks death is for chumps, drives a rusty white Chevy Lumina with a bumper sticker on the rear that reads Choose Life. Now, all we're doing is saying, so what do we know? What stands out? What can we get from this? Okay, we know it involves somebody named Robert Ettinger. We know he drives a rusty Chevy Lumina. We know it has this bumper sticker. And he thinks death is for chumps. Now, that's the phrase that jumps out, right? You take that sentence, that phrase out of it. This is a totally different sentence. What does that mean? Thinks death is for chumps. The end, the Choose Life bumper sticker immediately suggests, okay, so is this going to be a piece about abortion? But that's really at odds with that beginning. Doesn't that he thinks death is terrible. He says it's for chumps. Other things to notice. And again, maybe they mean something, maybe they don't. But they're choices the author made in the very first sentence. Why specify the car as rusty? Right? You're not looking for answers. All you're doing is looking at for what's there and thinking about the choices the author made. All right, so then we go on to the second sentence. Ettinger is 91 years old, bent, and crooked. Okay, so we get, what do we know now? We know Ettinger is an old man. We know he is not in good physical condition. Bent and crooked, those have pretty negative connotations as well. So far, we're not getting a lot that makes us want to like him. Okay, and that's worth noting. The first impression we make with the subject of a piece is almost always intentional and important. And in this case, it isn't that we dislike him, but one could be described as being, older and not physically strong, and make it neutral or even likable. But in this case, bent, crooked, those are negative terms. We use those in other contexts to mean someone is a bad person. His face is splotched, his goatee grizzled, his gray hair wispy and unkempt. Okay, we're getting a lot of negative things about him, right? His appearance, again, that suggests, unkempt. So it isn't just that, oh, the poor guy's aging badly. It's that he looks bad. He leans on a worn wooden cane and wears a thick orthopedic shoe on his left foot. So at this point, if you haven't already gotten the idea, this is not a person in great physical condition. What do we know about him? Well, he doesn't look good. He's very old. His body is sort of twisted. He's even got a thick orthopedic shoe on one foot. He leans on a worn wooden cane. Something is physically wrong with him. Now we get a switch. Look at this next sentence. His legs were smashed, not just broken. His legs were smashed when he was hit by German mortar fire in November 1944, just before the Battle of the Bulge. Okay, now we get a sudden shift in tone in that, oh, this happened at a key moment in history. This happened while he was in war. So this is at odds, though, with what we've gotten previously. And that's worth noting. Maybe it means nothing, but that's the kind of thing you pay attention to. And that's what's going to help you decode these pieces, is sort of looking at, so that's interesting. Like, we've gotten a lot of negative words with negative connotation. And now we get, he was hit by German mortar fire in November 44, just before the Battle of the Bulge. Note, not in the Battle of the Bulge, just before it. And yet that famous battle is brought up to give it an even more powerful connection. He spent 4 years in an army hospital where he had bone grafts and skin grafts. Antibiotics saved his life. Again, maybe you don't have an answer, but okay, so hospitals, bone grafts, skin grafts, and antibiotics, all of these are medical science. So what? Maybe nothing, maybe something. But the author chose to include that. The author didn't just say Ettinger spent 4 years in an army hospital recovering. The author went out of their way to specify specific medical science advancements. More recently, he has undergone angioplasty, cataract surgery, a hemorrhoidectomy, and prostate surgery twice. More specific medical procedures. That Ettinger endures is a miracle of science. this is pretty clearly set up what's previous. So again, at this point, if we recap, what do we know? We know that we are focusing on somebody named Robert Ettinger. We are clearly not supposed to know who that is. He is quite old. He is physically broken down. He looks bad. He is a veteran of World War II. He has undergone an incredible number of medical procedures, and at one point including being in a hospital for 4 years. Finally, then, this is all being contrasted with, he thinks death is for chumps and has a choose life bumper sticker. How are we supposed to feel about him at this point? It's getting harder to say, but it's still not positive. Actuarially, chances are good that he'll be dying soon, and if the going gets much tougher, he'll kill himself. All right, we're getting toward the end of the paragraph, and now look what the turn it's just taken. This is where the author is going to attempt to hook us. They've given us some key information. They've given us some things for us to think about. Here's where they want us. Here's where they want to make us keep going. So look at the contrast of that from the beginning. Death is for chumps. He'll probably die soon, but if things get much harder, he's planning to kill himself. What do we know? Just that. What does it mean? We still don't know, but that's fine. He has planned that down to the last detail. What do we know? This is something, it's not an emotional response. He didn't blurt that out. He has planned this very methodically. He has one concern. Now there's a great sentence, right? Look at the rhythm of sentences. Look at the number of words, literally the number of words per sentence. And suddenly now there's one that jumps out with 4 words. He has one concern. One might think if you've planned out your own death in minute detail, you would have many concerns. So that's a sentence designed to stand out by its length and make us wonder what one concern. The problem, of course, with suicide is that if you don't do it right, you face autopsy, he told me, and then you're no good for freezing. So we end then, hit forward one too many times. That's a great ending in terms of a hook. What do we know now is he's not killing himself to die. He's killing himself to be frozen. And that gives us where we're going with the piece. The problem with suicide is if you don't do it right, there's an autopsy, and then you can't be frozen. Now we've got where this is going. So what do we know? We know Ettinger has lived a long life in great pain for most of it. And his goal is focused on freezing himself, which now if we go back, we say, oh, okay, so this area in the middle, that's all about medical science. This is going to be how does the act, there's a good chance that this piece is going to involve the idea of medical science and how does it pertain to the idea of freezing oneself. So here's the idea here is not that you get it. The idea is that if we had just read through this very quickly, and I said, so what do you think about the first paragraph? In all likelihood, it's about a guy and he's old and he's going to freeze himself. By slowing down and going sentence by sentence, and forcing ourselves to really think about it, we're going to get a ton more out of it. This is very, very effective if it's a difficult paragraph, as I mentioned, but it's almost always at the beginning and often at the end. Going sentence by sentence is going to go a long, long ways to help you decode the author's point and the tone of the piece. You can try this with any piece, and we will be doing this repeatedly throughout the year. So I recommend just kind of practicing it with any time you're reading something that you're supposed to extract information from.